Hey guys, my name is Cthulhu and this is SimCompanies, and it's a game that I really want to talk about because I absolutely love it. So this is a game that I've been playing for the last 3 weeks now, coming close to 4 weeks probably, and it is a business tycoon game, and I assume the majority of you know what this game is because I can't imagine many people would stumble across this video without purposefully having looked it up. So yeah, but I am going to still talk about why I enjoy this game so much, and if I get enough traction then I'll make more videos. So it's really down to you now. If you've watched the video and you enjoy it, then yeah, please let me know, leave me a comment, put a thumbs up, whatever you want. My cat is trying to bite my hand, for God's sake. But yeah, so what is this? It is a business tycoon game and is a social one, and that's what I like about it most of all. I've played lots and lots of tycoon games, various different types, and basically it's the same element, which is ultimately you want to try and make as much money as possible. In this case, yep, you want to make as much money as possible, but it is to increase your company value. And that's what this game's all about, increasing your company value. And that's how the ranking system works as well. And there is my rank right now. So as you can see, I'm only 3 weeks in, and therefore I'm ranked 15,632nd. So I've got a very long way to go. And you know what? I assume that as soon as I get rid of these liabilities, which I probably never will do, but as soon as I do, this company value would jump. But yeah, in this game, it just doesn't seem to be worth actually selling your liabilities, or rather buying your bonds back, because it's just you get these loans at a ridiculously good rate, and you can absolutely turn that back into something more profitable. So there's just literally no point. But yeah, and then it's the social side that I like about this game the most. And just to explain it a little bit, so basically, you can get into various different industries. And so, for example, you could be involved in the food industry. It could be the primary industry where all you're doing is creating oranges and grapes and apples. And that could be it. And then you've got three options, which is sorry, three options. No, three options. No, two options. You have two options here. Actually, no, technically you've got three options. So your three options are to sell the apples to the general market, so to go onto the exchange and just sell it. The second option is to sell it via retail to the grocery store. And then the third option is for you to produce a new product with it. So you can produce, in the case of apples, apple pie or apple cider. So if we jump to my industry, I'm involved in electronics. And so I'm creating this high grade e-comp, which I'm going to refer to now as chipsets. So I produce these chipsets, and all my plots of land, as you probably noticed, are all electronic factories, so that I produce these chipsets. Now, another bit of the game that I like is the fact that, well, I like Excel games. I like games where I can get onto an Excel, I can do lots and lots of maths, and try and work out what is the most efficient way forward. And you know what? That is to a degree. Actually, there are two realms here. Let me just quickly explain that. Realm one is the original realm, and realm two started not that long ago, I'm assuming. I don't know exactly well or when, but it's kind of like a fresh start world, basically. And the reason I mention that, I just want to quickly show you my Realm 2. On Realm 2, I haven't put any thought into anything I'm doing. I'm just going completely random, as you can probably tell. I've got three bauxite mines. I don't care what level they are. I mean, generally speaking, you wouldn't keep anything below 90%. In that case, fantastic. But in these two cases, this one is 82% and this one is 85%. And I just don't care. I just wanted to do something new, and this actually isn't technically new, but the research was new. And past this, I'll probably go and do something else. I'm already in the confines of, not the confines, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but I'm all also process. I'm already in the process of getting rid of these automotive R&Ds in this chemistry laboratory as well, in order to do something different with the plot to land. But this for me is just like a test world, whereas this world I'm doing everything by the book. I've got my Excel and I'm doing the maths and I'm working out what makes better financial sense. And so, to go back to the original reason that I like this game, the social element of it. So basically, I'm creating chipsets, and as someone that produces chipsets, I require these three products: silicone, chemicals, gold bars. Now, what I can choose to do is I can choose to manufacture those materials myself, and that way I increase my profit margin. And I know that for a fact because I've done the maths on it. And so, for example, silicone I can produce at around $6 a unit. Chemicals I can produce at probably $13 a unit, and gold bars I've experienced that, and I know I can produce that at around 4,300 to 4,400, and I can do that, or I did do that, by having lots and lots of power plants. I had six power plants providing me with energy because gold ore is very, very energy hungry, and as is this, frankly, golden bars as well. But gold ore, and then yeah, I was producing my old gold ore, my own gold ore, 80 electricity. So I had 4 mines set up. I had six, seven, I can't remember now. Let's just say six power plants set up, and then I had one factory. And that was my setup. I was producing my own gold ore and producing my own power to make that gold ore as cost efficient as possible, which then in turn made gold bars as efficient as possible. I wasn't producing my own water because the water that's required is so minimal. I was never going to benefit by having a water reservoir to produce my own water. So that was my setup, and I was making gold bars at 4,400 and profiting. Is that the word? Profiting? Yeah, I was profiting massively off making golden bars. But I then started to ask myself throughout the entire process. I asked myself, what do people do with the product I'm creating? And I did that several times, and eventually I got to e-comps, chipsets, and when I got to chipsets, I did the maths on it. I said, right, okay, if I produce, let's say, one of these materials, if not all the materials, is it more cost efficient? And I worked out that it wasn't. I worked out that actually, if I buy all these units, I can make e-comps at a higher cost, which means less of a profit margin, but it allows me to have more electronic factories, which makes up for the loss of profit. And so that is the direction I went in. And so if you ever find anyone that sells chipsets, you'll probably find that they have a fully functioning map on electronic factories, and that alone, because that is the most efficient way to create these e-comps. It is not to, let's say, have, a gold mine and a power plant and a factory to produce gold bars to then eventually produce these chipsets, because then that's 4 slots taken up just to add a minute difference to your profit margin. And actually, with gold bars, it's not a minute difference, but it still all adds up. And another way of looking at it is these electronic factories produce 18k of profit per plot per day. If I was to then convert this into a mine, this into a power plant, this into a factory, am I then combining all the profit margins I lost on these three in this one last build in my electronics factory that are producing the chips? And the answer was no. So again, this is why I'm making chips. Now, part of then creating this product means that I now need to buy these materials, and that's where the social element comes in. But there are two options here. There's the non-social side, and then there's the social side. The non-social side, for those of you that maybe want to be solo players that don't want to have social interaction, is to buy everything on the exchange. And you can do that, and there's actually no disadvantage to doing that at all. You can buy anything you want at these prices at 0.34 for a transport unit. Or again, let's just stick with gold bars. So gold bars is 6,450. And actually, I say there is no though disadvantage. There is a disadvantage of I mean, it depends what you're buying. With gold bars, it's a massive disadvantage. With something like apples, there's literally no disadvantage. But yeah, the disadvantage actually lies with the seller, and that's where also the slight advantage lies with the buyer. So let me explain. On the seller side, you would have to pay 3% tax to use the exchange. To sell your produce on the market, you have to spend 3% tax. You lose 3% tax. So 6,450 times 0.97, and that's what you walk away with. That's your net profit, or not your net profit, that's your net revenue. um is it net revenue? Gross revenue. That's your gross revenue. Do you have gross and net revenue? No, that I don't think you do. That's your revenue. Jesus, I had to change that 3 times. That's your revenue. um so yeah, you lose money by using the marketplace, and the alternative here is that you use the market chat. So let's just call it the sales chat, because that's what it is, the sales chat. The sales chat is peer-to-peer. You find someone who's selling what you want. So let's say I want to buy these concrete blocks. I think they're concrete blocks, reinforced concrete. Let's say I want to buy reinforced concrete, or rather, let's say I want to sell reinforced concrete. I can then sell my reinforced concrete at my price and not pay 3% tax. And that's where the benefit for the seller comes in. There's a secondary benefit as well, which is minor in most cases and major in some cases. And that is that I half my transport cost. So if I'm using the market, I am going to have to spend full transport costs. But if I'm using peer-to-peer sales through the chat, then I'm going to half my transport costs. And the transport costs for most goods are one single transport unit. And a transport unit is right now about 35 cents. So the benefit there is very, very minimal. unless you're selling something like a jumbo jet or a gold bar. A gold bar has a transport cost of 1,000 units, 1,000 transport units, which is a lot of money. It's about, if I'm doing the maths right, 152, 53, 50. It's about 350. No, no, that's exactly it. It's 350 if I sell it through the market. 350 on top of the 3% tax. So I'm taking a lot of money away from that 6,450 I thought I was going to get. Whereas if I can somehow sell it for 6,450 on the sales chat, I negate that whole tax and I negate half my transport cost. That cost gets slashed from 350 to 175, and that's fantastic. Okay, that's why you want to use the chat. And so the buyer also benefits, because if the seller's going to benefit to that degree and the buyer's not going to benefit, well, there has to be some reason for the buyer to buy through the sales chat, right? And so the benefit comes in the price of the sale. So while you might be selling gold bars on the marketplace for 6,450, a seller will sell it slightly less on the chat, simply because they know that it's still a net benefit for them to sell their gold bars through the chat. And so maybe instead of offering it at 6,450 on the market, they sell it for 6,250, so $200 less on the chat. And that's still a significant saving. Some people even give the entire tax benefit to the buyer because they will still save $175 on transport costs. Usually, the discount is in the benefit of the buyer, because we need to keep buyers on the chat. There is no reason for a buyer to buy on the chat unless they see the discount. So yeah, that discount has to exist. And so that is the social side of it. But there are other levels. There are more levels to this social interaction. So let's say, well, actually, let's talk about quality. So eventually you start creating higher quality goods. So for example, when I create these chipsets, there are 12 levels, and they're determined, not determined, but they are, again, what's the word? But basically, you know the quality that you're making by how many stars are attached to the product. And so I'm making a quality 2 product. And I've done this, I've got to this level by spending lots and lots of money on research. In fact, not that much money, they say, but it is very expensive to get to level 3, level 4, level 5. Enormous amounts of money have to go into it, and it's certainly not something that I can do as someone that's only been playing for 3 weeks. But eventually, I will aspire to move towards level 3 or quality 3. And so at lower levels of quality, you've got plenty of people that can produce them, because it is the default. You by default produce zero quality goods. And it is still very cheap to do the research to get to level 1, and in fact it is still relatively cheap to get to level 2. Um, but quality 0 and quality 1 are very easy to get to, or rather you are at quality 0, so quality 1 is very easy to get to. The point being, because I'm over elaborating this point, is that supply and demand for that quality of a unit is very, very high. There is both a high demand and a very high supply of those units. And so to find yourself a buyer, not that hard. You do have to compete for that buyer, because there will be other people interested in selling to that person, but still it's relatively easy to transact with other people, whether you are selling or whether you are buying. The difficulty, though, comes when you are selling quality 4, quality 5. It's in the higher realms where obviously your marketplace for selling those goods to starts to lower. And the reason it starts to lower is because no one is just going to buy a quality 4 or 5 good unless they're getting a benefit from it. And the way this game works is so let's again go back to gold bars and my chips. So if I want to produce a quality 2 chipset, I need quality 1 materials. So my gold bars have to be quality 1. My silicone, quality 1. My chemicals, quality 1. So for example, this guy here is buying quality 0 goods, and therefore the maximum he can create is a quality 1 good. So don't know what he's actually planning to do with these materials, but whatever it is, he will either make quality 0, because they are quality 0, or he'll be able to make quality 1, because you can make quality 1 with quality 0 goods. But quality 2 requires a minimum of quality 1 goods. So you get to a point where people who want to buy quality 5 goods must be making quality 6 products. And so your market to sell to gets a lot smaller. Um, and also, Bo, it's the same problem for the buyer. The buyer has less of a marketplace to buy from. They have less suppliers available to them. So while the transactions at a quality 0, quality 1 might be very, very easy to get through, and you may then just do a deal with somebody and that'll be the end of your interaction. When you get to a higher quality level, you're going to want to maintain your suppliers, or you're going to want to maintain your buyers, and try and come up with an agreement that satisfies both of you, where you can then expect to make that transaction work for you on a daily basis. So once I do get to quality 4, quality 5 chipsets, I'm going to want to find someone that wants to buy those chipsets on a daily basis. It makes my life a lot easier not to have to go and find a buyer for it every single day, a random buyer for it every single day, especially given again the marketplace to sell these goods to is minimal. And so yeah, that's the next level. The next level is I need to create a business relationship. And so to give you an example, I've got this guy called Wahid Corporation, and we didn't actually come up with a formal agreement. If anything, formal agreements only recently been made. This was a very informal agreement where I approached him, said I'll take the gold bars. He sent them to me. A few days later, so 3 days later, he has more to sell. I don't know why it took him 3 days to come back to me, but it did. He came back to me 3 days later. He thought of me for some reason, and he said, I've got these bars. Do you want them? I say, absolutely, send them. So I bought them. And then the next day comes back again, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. He continuously, religiously comes back to me. So we have this informal relationship now, which we've now made more formal, and it's down to an understanding. Because at one point I said to him, look, I will always take them if the price is fair and I have the funds. And so he discussed what fair means, because obviously that's what you have to agree upon. You need to understand what fair looks like. And so he's selling it to me for the full 3% discount. So I'm getting the entire tax benefit he gets as a seller by going through the chat. But remember, with gold bars, the transport cost is extremely high. And so he is also benefiting to the tune of $175. I've got the lion's share of the benefit, but again, sellers need buyers. Oh, sorry, buyers need sellers. So sellers are more than willing to give the lion's share of the benefit to the buyers. Otherwise, the market chat does not work. And then there's just no point to any of it. So we've come to an agreement, and we also now understand how we're going to talk about that price, because we could determine the fair price based on what is selling that very second. But the market can be volatile, and sometimes the price is very, very low, sometimes it's very, very high. But obviously there's an average, and there's a website called SimCo that can give us an average. It tells us what happened that previous day and what the average was. And that's the way we've now decided to work on. So quality one was yesterday selling an average of $6,208, and so he sold me the product at 6,200. He rounded down, and so that's it. That's the agreement. It's a very fair and equitable agreement. It's still in my favour, but you know what? I think that's the way it should be. I think the favour should still lean, not completely, but still to a large degree to the buyer, because the buyer has to have a reason to go through the chat as opposed to the sales market. Oh, sorry, as opposed to the market. Then we've got complex business CC. So this is another level of interaction, but this is negotiating. Yeah, I didn't actually come to an agreement with this guy, but again, it was down to market volatility. The market price of the product I was trying to buy, which was chipsets, was too volatile. When we began speaking, the market price was 840. Then when he offered me 833, the market was 850. And I said that to him. I said, look, I'm not disagreeing with you. You know, I can see that 2% discount on 850 is 833. You're absolutely right, but it's too much for me. And I explained to him, look, the market's volatile right now. And even as we're talking, that market price has now changed to 845, which means that he should really have to change his price. He came back 7 minutes later. It was 7 minutes later. It doesn't now show it. But he came back to me 7 minutes later and said, okay, I agree. Market price is now 845. How about 828? I didn't go back to him because I wanted to settle at my 820. And I'm more than happy to wait for the market to go back down again for me to be able to then negotiate 820, because I'm not in a rush to be able to buy this product. And in fact, I can now get that product at cheaper than what he offered it to me. And in fact, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and buy it right now. So quality to 825, I'm going to take it. Fantastic. I'm just going to cough quickly. That's something, by the way, I will talk to you about maybe in another video, why I'm buying chipsets. I'm sure you can understand, but I'll go through it in a bit more depth. But those are the social interactions you've had in this game. You've got your business agreements, and you will need long-term agreements the higher level you become. And then you've got your negotiating as well. And you know what? When games can teach you real life skills, that's a massive plus. And at no point in your life will you not need to, have some sales acumen and know how to negotiate. And you may not think that's the case because maybe you work in IT or HR, and it's just not an inherent part of your job to sell. But ultimately, you got to where you were because you were able to sell yourself. You were the product. And so there'll be moments as well where you feel like, you know what, you deserve a raise and you want to negotiate that raise. I think this is a great way for you to be able to have those interactions over and over and over again to develop those negotiating skills. You're not going to learn them in a day. You're certainly not going to learn them over the course of 100 or 200 negotiations. Being an expert negotiator takes lots and lots of time, and if you're doing this for at least a year and you're constantly using the chat, you will learn to become an expert negotiator to a degree where, firstly, you're able to keep the conversation going, which in this case failed, but also you're getting ultimately what you want and you're doing it in the most logical way. Some people might take it the wrong way and say, look, no, no, thank you, give it to me at 820. In my case, look, I'm actually agreeing with this guy. Look, I don't think you're wrong. I just need you to understand that for me, 833 is too much and the market is too volatile. And if I basically wait it out, I will get the price I'm looking for. So either come down to my price or we're going to have to end the conversation there. It was a bit rude of me not to respond, but that's because actually I was now fully intent after having that conversation on making this video. Um, and that's it. So that's the social side of the game, and it took me way too long to explain all of that. But I hope that you now have a good idea of what makes me enjoy this game, and hopefully, if you are playing this, you enjoy the game to the same level. If you don't play Sim Companies, I'm really hoping that you'll give it a shot. I think it's really worth your time. There's absolutely, like most games these days, well, no, not most games, but like most mobile games, even though you can get this on your desktop through the Windows Store by going to the website direct, you can what am I trying to think of? Oh yeah, you play this for free. You don't pay anything at all. So just give it a go. Play the tutorial, see if it's something for you. If it isn't, you don't really lose much time. And if it is, fantastic. Hopefully you'll enjoy it and we can do some business. But yeah, please leave me a like, a comment. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I mean, ultimately, I'm probably not going to make one of these videos again unless I see some traction. But if I do, fantastic. Maybe let me know what you want to see. I'm not saying that's going to be my next video. I've already got my next video in my head right now. Um, but yeah, I probably won't produce it unless I know that I'm going to get some sort of views, because it's disheartening to not get views for something that you're putting out there. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and until next time, see you around.